let's look to the Big Ten. It's always one of my favorite games because I'm a traditionalist, and regardless of how good or bad these teams are, Michigan State get together. They're at the Big House. So the last time we saw these two teams on the field at Ann Arbor is when Michigan couldn't complete the punt snap and lost one of the more historic games in the series to Michigan State, which ushered in the Spartans to win the Big Ten championship and get to the college football playoff. Michigan State, of course, really good. One of the top 5 or 6 teams in the country for a 3-year span through 2014. Awful in there in 2016, of course, and Michigan looks to be one of the best defensive units in the country, but I think Sparty may have found its middle ground. If you look at the Iowa and Notre Dame games, that they're a decent team, but not very dynamic.
They're not dynamic at all. And for Michigan State, you mentioned how great they were for a long time. This is not the same Spartans team that we saw for that 3 or 4 year run where they were making the playoff a couple times, or New Year's Six bowls. This team has all sorts of issues on offense. They're pretty one-dimensional right now. Meanwhile, Michigan, they have the best defense in the country, bar none. I mean, there's Clemson, there's Alabama, there's some great defenses all across college football. Michigan has the best. They're giving up the fewest yards per play. They're giving up the fewest yards total. This Wolverines defense is fast, it's strong, it's physical. I don't think they're getting enough attention for how good they are. Don Brown, one of the more underrated defensive coordinators in the country. I don't think Michigan State scores more than 10 points in this game, tops. Meanwhile, for Michigan, I think that they've got some things rolling offensively. They've got a good running game. John O'Korn is going to get the start at quarterback with Wilton Spate injured. O'Korn threw for 270 and a touchdown against Purdue. That might be an upgrade. At worst, it's just a lateral move from Spate to O'Korn. It may even be an upgrade for Michigan. I think the Wolverines offense does enough to score about 30 points in this game. I think they win at 30-10. And the Wolverines, they obviously have the game from 2 years ago on their mind, but they also just have that 5 or 6 year stretch where Michigan State was the better team in the state. And now the Wolverines all of a sudden have kind of taken control of that state again. They are not going to let up. I mean, that's what you think about in these rivalry games. When you see rivalry games where the spread is a little bit larger, double digits, I don't see as much of a possibility for these backdoor covers or teams that close the gap late. I just think Michigan steps on the throat and doesn't let up. That's what they want to do to this Michigan State team. And Jim Harbaugh also has never shown mercy for anybody. He beat Rutgers by 80 last year, for goodness sake. So I think that Michigan wins this game 30-10. And 10 points might be generous for Michigan State, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's a really good point that you make, because you have to think, while we kind of conjecture and think what's between the ears for certain head coaches, for Jim Harbaugh, while he was off in San Francisco, yes, Sparty was owning this series, but he certainly takes note of that, I'm sure, and knows what the Michigan faithful would like, and he's ready to get some payback against the Michigan State Spartans. And he was around for that debacle 2 years ago at the Big House.